Hello, you're watching Avenue X, and this is my film review of the epic mythology Chinese film that went into theater in China on July the 20th, 2023, Feng Shen, Creation of Gods. This is a really complicated film with a lot of background stories and a lot of things worth talking about. In this review, I am going to break it down mainly into three parts. In the first part, I'll introduce you to the Feng Shen Yan Yi, the investiture of gods, and how it's related to the film, so the background story and the history of that. The second part will be about the background story of the making of this trilogy film, which is in itself quite epic. Then the last part is going to be about the film itself, and then I'll break that down further to talking about my experience with this story, this film. I think it's actually really important, starting from how I feel about it till I watch it for the first time and the second time, so I'll talk about that, and then the film itself. In case you don't want to hear the whole thing, you can pick the one you want, and this is likely to be a very long video. First, a very brief introduction to the basics of this film. This film is directed by Wu Shan, and pretty much this whole project is spearheaded by him. It features many stars of different generations, also young people who weren't even actors and got recruited, trained specifically for this film. All three films have already finished shooting, it's just the next two haven't finished post-production yet. In terms of international release of this film, right now there is no confirmed news, but I do believe they intend to release this film outside China. I would actually, before I tell you the details about the film, recommend you to check out this movie in an IMAX theater if you can. When that happens, it makes a huge difference. Now, let's break it down. The three main parts. Number one, introducing you to the background story of the whole Feng Shen Yan Yi, creation of gods or investiture of gods as how it's officially translated in English. The films are a trilogy, and I would call them the contemporary reinterpretation of the myth and an ancient literature piece. Feng Shen Yan Yi is a well-known Chinese literature piece. You can call it, by today's standard, fantasy historical mythology novel. And it was written in Ming Dynasty around the time of 1570s. In terms of who is actually the real author, there are two candidates, but it has never been confirmed. And then this story is actually based on an even earlier copy written during Song and Yuan dynasty, Wu Wang Fa Zhou Ping Hua. Literally means the king of Zhou dynasty overthrows his previous king of Shang dynasty novel. And the author of that Song and Yuan dynasty first version of the story is no longer known. Completely lost in history. The story of Feng Shen Yan Yi is based on real, very, very ancient Chinese history, plus a lot of created mythological figures. In terms of the period of time that it is referring to is Shang dynasty, which happened around 16th to 11th century BC. And after its about 600 years of ruling, it was replaced by Zhou. Our main character in the film is the founder of Zhou dynasty. And Zhou dynasty ran for about 800 years. And in many ways, the current Chinese culture, a lot of its roots come from that period. Feng Shen Yan Yi, this book, it has been adapted so many times. And you, international audiences, if you've watched Chinese dramas a lot, you definitely have come across versions of them. For example, famous Erlang Shen character, Yang Jian. One of the best known actors in dramaland who's played that is Jiao Wenjun. And he has a very classic look that often is the default version. People think it's the best looking guy. Also, Naja, this really interesting kid character with the red ribbon and two fire wheels under his feet. You've had animation versions of this character. You have real live actions. So many different people have played that. So all these characters come from this fantasy novel written about 500 years ago, based on 3,500 years ago history. With the three films in the trilogy Feng Shen, the first one will give you the basic background information, set you up at the beginning of the sequences of events that will lead to Zhou dynasty replacing Shang in Chinese history. Therefore, you will have the classic story in the human realm of the previous dynasty's ruler, Shang Wang Yingshou, played by Fei Xiang, how he climbs to power and how he tries to stay on the throne and doing a lot of wrong things. And therefore, people rebel against him, and the people who lead that group would be our main character, who are from the Ji family, Ji Fa and his father, Ji Chang. Now, I've introduced you to the background, story, literature, history of Feng Shen. Let's move on to the second part, talking about the great misfortune the trilogy has suffered. This director, Wu Shan, has already made a couple of fantasy films in Chinese cinema. In an interview, he said he pretty much started thinking about doing this back in 2014. He started collecting materials, researching, finding anthropologists, going to museums, collecting all the information. By the time 2016, he already formed a first team that has started location scouting within China, without China, and then they thought still it needs to be within China. By time 2017, they have started to select actors because they decided the main characters or the main group of characters are going to be the young people, which is actually a very different angle from the original Feng Shen novel. They need to find fresh faces, get all those actors in and get them trained for the specific purpose of these three films. They looked at over 15,000 people, interviewed over 1,500, and came down to about 30 people, girls and boys, mostly boys, and then got them locked in a training camp for half a year, 24 weeks, giving them all the lessons that they would need. Exercise, losing weight is just number one. Building muscles is just the basics. They also need to be trained in horse riding, arrow shooting, wugong, fighting, wire work, and Chinese traditional cultural lessons such as guqin playing that I play. They even found their ideal fox demon character, Naran, who is Russian, cannot speak Chinese at all, and they have to teach her to speak Chinese from zero. And she learned Chinese within those half year to such proficiency that she sounds so good in Mandarin. Talking about, proper hardworking people should be having more screen time instead of traffic actors who can't even get their Mandarin straight. They started filming officially in 2018. It took 1.5 years for them to film 3 films all together because they figured out that was the best, most budget-friendly way. So they didn't wrap until, I believe, end of 2019 or even leading up to 2020. Ideally, they would want to screen film 1 in 2020. And we all know what happened in 2020. Since January, the world closed down. Chinese cinema didn't even get back to functioning until about August that year. To add insult to injury, the most important investor of this film, Beijing Wenhua, Beijing Culture, this company, didn't bankrupt, but pretty much was flattened and completely destroyed. It was publicly listed, and it performed so bad from the year 2019 to 2020 with a deficit of over 2 billion RMB. Its stock pretty much just evaporated, and its initial 600 employees suddenly just reduced down to 200. I think today it's only 50 people still working in this company. And its higher management people got charged with financial crimes. I don't get the exact number on the internet, although I researched it, but I think it's over 70% of the budget and money of these 3 trilogy films need to come from that company. And that company was hanging on last breath. And if you remember the Zheng Shuang scandal with the surrogate pregnancy and how she got cancelled in China, she actually also is tied into the company. Anyway, just a lot of bad things happened. This film needs a lot of post-production. As you can imagine, it has gods, it has demons fighting, a lot of war scenes, money, money, money. So everybody believed these 3 films are completely toasted year after year after year. So now we're in 2023. This film finally gets released. Thinking about it was filmed back in 2018. It's 5 years already. And when you go into theater and watch this film, you probably will notice certain parts of this film are so poorly made in terms of CG, and you can kind of guess the good part are done when they have money and they think they need to put money in that part more importantly, and then the really crappy part probably comes from the fact that literally there's no money and they can't do it. And that's the basic background story of this unfortunate production that has actually put a lot of work into the making, but then, life happens. So now let's move on to the third part, talking about the film itself. 3.1, let me first talk about my experience and journey of seeing this film and how I feel about it and how it changed. Personally, I am not a huge fan of this book. I know the characters Jiang Ziya, Ne Zha, Yang Jie, everybody knows in China. But because there are so many adaptations of this story in animation, in live action, in television series over the years, a lot of them are really crappy, honestly speaking. There are good ones, but there are a lot of crappy ones. So overall, I have a very attitude towards this whole story. It's oversaturated. I've seen it too many times. I know about this whole story of Beijing 文化, Beijing culture, 郑爽, and all its epic fail of that company. It just feels it is a very get publicly listed and get money from the stock market and then get out game of those film companies, media companies. We've got too many in China. You have a really bad impression of them. So I thought this is probably another series of films that are just made to get quick bucks made and there's no love or, whatever behind it. And why do you pick Feng Shen, such an old IP? So again, not a good impression. Then when I saw the trailer, I believe if you go back to check my one of the June or July, early July weekly video, you'll hear me rant about when I see the first released theatrical trailer, very not look forward to it, and I said it looks like a crappy film. And the trailers are really badly edited. Okay, from my point of view, as an editor, I would totally do it differently. So basically everything happened before I can go into theater and watch this film is negative. I landed in China on July the 28th, which is 8 days after the film got released in theater. So it had a week of incubation time on internet. And I follow a lot of reviewers and other related to film and television people that I trust their opinion. I start to see really positive response from their reviews. People have already started to watch it for the second time by the time I start traveling from Canada to China. So I'm like, it looks positive, interesting. While I was on the plane, I'm like, I definitely will go and see this film once I land in China. So I did it as early as end of July or like first day of August. I can't remember, but it was at that time. A theater in Shanghai on IMAX screen with very expensive ticket price. I just went in blind and saw it for 2 hours and a half. It's so much better than I expected. It's a proper story. It's done by people who love what they're doing, and there's a huge potential of this film to get bigger for the second and third film. If they can make the first one work with the box office, they can get the money back, they can make a lot better CG for the next two, then potentially this is gonna be China's Lord of the Rings. It already is, in a way, because we really don't have the second candidate anywhere. And the second time viewing, after about 10 days from the first viewing, during which time I've watched a lot more documentary stuff. And I feel I know the whole crew and know their process so much better. Even all the actors, now I can tell the whole 20 or so young men who made up that young men's group in the film. I now know who is who. And the actors, and I can recognize them even when they're in a wide shot. I went for all the details. I went to look at, for example, design, carvings of the jade, or the peripheral things that I didn't notice for the first time. And after watching the second time, it's even better because you notice so much more and you realize this is a film that's been cut down from probably a version that is about half an hour longer than the current one because they don't want to make the theater release so long. With that condensation, every shot is meaningful. Even when it's in far background, the characters, you see what they're doing, it's all in the moment and it's been very carefully crafted. I am so happy that I went for the second time because it was almost a different film when you see it for the second time. Now finally, we're at the last part of this video talking about the film itself. It's gonna be very hard for me to avoid spoiler. I'll let you know the archetype of the story and what it's roughly like and try to avoid details. First, quickly telling you the rough structure of the story. It's 2 hour and a half movie and you mainly have two lines or two parts of the world that you're looking at. One is the human realm. Everybody is human. They may be very strong, but they don't have superpower. The other one is the more fantasy, mythology, heavens and gods and immortals and demons. Historically, that is set at the turning point of two dynasties. You have a bad king from the first one, played by Fei Xiang, who will eventually get replaced, and the newcomer is played by the young actor Yu Shi, the first emperor of Xizhou. So that's the human world story. You will see the whole process of this young man, how he basically unbrainwashed himself because he was first brainwashed by this king, a serious case of gaslighting, and eventually he break out of that mental control and realized his purpose and what is right and what is wrong, went back to his home, his real father, and eventually he's gonna open a new chapter of Chinese history. So that's the human world line. Then you have the mythological line, which is the Shang dynasty have done so many wrong things that it's causing heaven to punish the human realm in all kinds of ways, such as famine, disease. The immortals in Kunlun Mountain decided that they need to use a very powerful magic artifact that's created by the origin god of Chinese mythology, 女娲, who created humans, the female upper body snake tail goddess. She had this Feng Shen creation of gods list, a scroll that has this magic power, and those immortals need to find a courier to take this to the human world, finding the destined ruler of all lands, use that to stop heaven's punishment to earth. Like, that's how it's set up. I know it's a bit confusing, but when you watch it, it's okay. And they ended up picking 3 people. Jiang Ziya, played by Huang Bo, who is a very famous mythological figure in Chinese lore. Yang Jie, 二郎神, played by Ci Sha in this film, and then the kid, Ne Zha. They take this list to the human realm. They thought it's gonna be the Shang Dynasty king, played by Fei Xiao, because he is the king, I mean, for real. He will stop all the mess in this world, and realizing he's a bad guy, and he will not make it happen. And the first film will end with Jifa leaving the Shang Dynasty capital after a battle, went back to his hometown, and reunited with his father. The next story would be official battles starting between the Shang Dynasty and the future Zhou Dynasty's people, and then the third movie will resolve that. Like, that's how it's gonna happen. Going back to Avenue X's comfort zone of talking about stuff, good and bad. The bad things, I'll let you know, the film that didn't do very well. First point, I kind of already said that because of all the epic hiccup they've got, you can tell parts of this film didn't have enough money. Some CG is really good. Some are, what the heck? Television dramas can do better than that. Like, his hand is literally floating on his clothes. It's like not even like bad. Okay, so there are a couple of things you probably will get really taken out of the story just because of how bad it looks. Number 2, this film has a lot happening and you definitely will not get bored, and there's almost no PE time. In an ideal world, I'd want at least another 20 minutes to 30 minutes with a lot of moments between characters that will give you a much better idea of the bond between certain important characters, how they formed it, how it developed, and eventually how that's gonna lead to big plot changes in the future. Particularly the 2 main roles played by Chen Muchi, who is the crown prince of the bad king, and Yu Shi, who would be the future next dynasty ruler. Their friendship is so essential to the whole makeup of the story, the structure, and all the things that's gonna happen. You can see they're already trying their best to squeeze that in, but there's so much background story that needs to be there. Taking screen time away, there isn't enough, and I would really want them to actually put it back. I don't know if they're gonna give you a director's cut. I think that will make it dramatically an even more interesting story. The last thing is, it is by no means the perfect masterpiece that the best of the film industry in this world can provide today. Some parts are still very not well oiled, and they kind of run into each other quite hard. You do have to kind of imagine a lot of the things, and you would wish that the connective tissue of this film can be worked out even better, so it's not perfect. If I completely disregard its background story and how rare this type of film can be good in Chinese cinema, I put it at 1.8 million, like slightly lower than 2 Gold Mine in my opinion, but then because it's so rare and it's the only one in Chinese cinema, I don't even want to rate this film, honestly. I would just want them to succeed and get the money to make the next 2, and I have the feeling that they're going to be so much better than the first one. Now let's talk about what is good about this film. Yeah, this video is so long. Number 1, the main actors, they're really good. The older actors such as Li Xuejian and Huang Bo, you don't have to worry about them. They can make every second that they're on screen count. Then for Fei Xiang, I don't know how many international audiences know about him. He was the first idol in China back in the 80s when he was like so popular. He did most of his rest of his career Broadway, singing musicals, and he's mostly known as a musical actor, but sometimes he is in film as well. They picked him to be the bad king of Shang Dynasty Zhou Wang. So perfect and suitable. Initially, I thought this is weird, and he has a slightly ABC accent of Mandarin that sounds a bit off, but I tell you, watch it for 2 times and you forget about that, and you just feel he's the perfect choice. And this guy is ripped at the age of over 60, unbelievable build, and you so believe that he can be the guy who can completely brainwash all the young hostage sons from all the lords in this land. I mean, he literally uses them and would kill them with no mercy, but all these young men look upon him like he's a god. And he needs to have that face, that presence, that charisma to make it convincing. Okay, this is so not making sense, but because it's that guy, I can see why the young guys got completely swooned. I cannot think of a better choice than Fei Xiang playing this role to make it actually make sense. The two main actors, Chen Muchi and Yu Shi, the actor Sha playing Yang Jian, he has already been in a couple of dramas that got filmed later but came out earlier, and I've already seen him in other things. I mean, Chen Muchi too, in this year's 星落凝成糖, Starry Love. I kind of already know these guys and I really like them in other things. I don't even know they were in Feng Shen. So when I see the movie, I was like, oh, it's you too. I'm so happy. The training really made them the characters. Wow. Male hormone, the muscle, the body that went through a lot of hard work and having those form, it cannot be faked. And it looked so impressive and perfect for this film. So for all the people who want to drool over six packs, biceps, and hot body, you have to go and watch the film, and good looking face. And also the actress Na Ran playing the new version of the nine-tailed fox demon Sudaji. She's so different from every other Sudaji before, and you will get so impressed by her acting, her ability to say a complete foreign language to that level, and then how accurately she captures a fox canine's way of looking, feeling around the world, the body language. She's so good. So in terms of acting, casting, this film did so much better than anybody could ever imagine, I think, for Chinese cinema. The second thing I like about this film is it really reasoned through the logic of why people do things as humans. Although it's like 3,500 years ago setting, it makes complete sense to contemporary people. It is not something that happens because the writer says so. They build up everybody. They makes everyone's every move making logical sense. And that is very different from the original novel 500 years ago. That is quite messy. And a lot of things in that novel is written by an author who says, because I said so. There's no reason. Things just happen. But they know that it wouldn't work for contemporary audiences and for film logic, so they made everything make sense. And I particularly appreciate they focused on the father and son relationship and on the comparison between the good father and son relationship versus the problematic father and son relationship, the good people relationship, and the type of all the things that's wrong with patriarchy. Father and son relationship. It has the Chinese culture and gene in the story, but it's talking about something everybody understands in contemporary world. I think initially they actually want to hinge this whole story on the love story between Yu Shi, Jiva, the future founder of Zhou dynasty, with Sudaji, the nine-tailed fox. Thank heavens they gave up on that. That would be a terrible idea, and this would be a crappy film. If the whole thing is just because of romance, my girl got taken away by the bad king, I want to get her back. Imagine that. It's like all crappy. Romantic dramas use that, and谢天谢地. Okay, they didn't do it that way. The final point I want to add on this is if you are a fan of epic scenery, epic battles, Lord of the Rings type of things, physical combat, very hard sword, blood, snow avalanche, city sacking, plus magic fighting. Like you get both words in this film. If you like that on a big screen IMAX, this film will give you a lot of that. It has very good sound effect. It will hit you physically, like you feel the rib cage shaking with all the sound waves that comes from the big screen, making it make sense for you to spend money, see it in theater, preferably as big as possible. To conclude, the first film of Feng Shen, Creation of Gods, is something I completely didn't expect will be this good, but now I am a fan, and I cannot wait for number 2, number 3 to come out. I do think they can, because it has such a good response within China. I already can guess certain plot that's gonna happen between the main characters. Just by running that in my head, I get excited. So now I have 2 things to look forward to. The next 2 films of Feng Shen, and then the 3rd movie of Wandering Earth. I will pray now that whenever these 2 films or 3 films go into theater in China, I could be physically in China to see them. And let's see if law of attraction is gonna make that happen for me. So that will be the end of this very long film review coming from Avenue X. Thank you for watching. Let's pray this film will come to you sooner than later. Please take care. I'll see you in my next video. Meanwhile, live long and happy film watching!